markets, rent increases are outpacing appreciation, which is really driving the first-time buyer crazy because they would prefer to own, stabilize that payment, and not be subject to rental increases each year. However, as we mentioned in the first segment, finding opportunity in this market, for somebody who wants to invest, it's an opportune time to jump in and be a landlord because you've got great rent rates supporting your investment. Now, that doesn't mean to run out there recklessly and buy property, but just know that there's these debt service coverage ratio products available to you. So if you're retired and you don't have significant income on paper and you want to invest in properties, this might be a tool that you can utilize to jump in and become a landlord. Use a DSCR loan with a 1-to-1 minimum ratio, and you're now with as little as a 15 to 25% down payment, you're able to jump in and buy some investment property. So I wanted to touch on that. I wanted to touch on that. That's a loan program that's often misunderstood, and it's fairly new in the guideline changes. So it can be utilized for a lot of investment properties, also in the residential space primarily, but Airbnb rentals. You can buy an Airbnb rental with a DSCR loan. And while that's a relatively new space, I know Airbnb's been around for a few years, it's really taking hold as an investment strategy where people are buying properties specifically to short-term rental, or they're buying properties specifically to Airbnb. The short-term rental market is really gaining steam. But I do want to caution you that if you are looking to jump into the Airbnb game, if you will, definitely look at the local ordinances as well as the association guidelines, because there are some communities pushing back against that. And I think most people's fear is that if the neighbor's home hits the Airbnb market suddenly, every weekend, it's going to seem like a scene from the movie Animal House. But there's a lot of people who do very well in that space. And I can understand not wanting the Animal House scene played out in your front lawn every Saturday. But I also know, too, that there's a lot of families, or there are rather a lot of families and people who just Airbnb for a week or a month at a time. I know there's a big market for that, short-term rental for traveling nurses. So it's not always a scary thing, but so just jump in, check the local ordinances, get with an experienced real estate agent who's worked that market before, because they'll often be able to guide you through the transaction. And again, if you don't have an agent and you want a rock star, we'll do our best to find you one. We're happy to refer you to somebody. But yeah, so DSCR loans can be used for a variety of investment real estate strategies. So just wanted to touch on that. We get a lot of questions. We're seeing more and more of them. And the biggest thing to remember is the coverage ratio of 1-to-1 is fundable. So the property doesn't have to throw out a ton of positive cash for it to make sense from the lender standpoint. And honestly, it gives you an opportunity to jump in there, and maybe you found a property that is under market rent, and with some renovations or some improvements to the property, you can increase the rents and in turn increase the property value, but then be in a positive cash position. So in the past, if you were buying a property that didn't cash flow, say 1 to 1.25, then the lender was looking to your personal income to offset the payment. In this instance, a 1-to-1 ratio gives you a broader ability to go out there and find properties that do cash flow. So if you have any questions about the DSCR loan products, give us a call, 561-291-8569. That's 561-291-8569. Or visit us on the website, www.mr.mortgage. That's mr.mortgage. So I'm just looking through the text line now. I see a question that came in. We have a question that says, interest rates have gone up. I still want to refi and pull cash out, but I don't know that it makes sense. Where do you think interest rates are going? Well, I don't have a crystal ball for the interest rate where they're going. I do think that we're in this elevated market. So if you missed the opportunity to refinance and lower your rate and lower your payment, or maybe shorten your term, what's classed as a typical rate and term refinance, you might have missed the boat. However, if you need to refinance for other reasons, to pay off higher debt, higher interest rate debt, credit cards, car payments, boat payment, whatever it may be, or some unforeseen expenses, now is still an amazing time to do it. You certainly have never had more equity in your property, and interest rates are historically low. So by comparison to credit card rates or vehicle rates or recreational vehicle rates, I mean, I see people pay off their RV. I know a lot of people in the pandemic ran out and bought fifth wheels and RVs, and now they've got, a 20-year loan on an RV, and they had this very cool idea that they were going to travel the country and sell the house and, live off the land and off the grid, I guess is the common phrase. But perhaps that didn't happen, and now there's a big RV sitting alongside the house, or worse yet, in a storage lot that you're paying rent on the storage and the RV payment. So in those instances, refinancing to pay off that kind of stuff certainly makes sense. You're going to want to look at your total monthly outflow, including the debts you pay off, and compare that against your new mortgage payment. But I'll dive in just a little deeper on that on the other side of this break. We're going to be right back in a few moments. And keep in mind, you can call us or text your questions in to 561-291-8569. That's 561-291-8569. That is the Anytime hotline. It rings here in the studio during the show, or forwards to my office during the week. We'll be right back. Quick question. Do you have any idea what your home is actually worth in this market? I mean, things have been appreciating so quickly. I know a lot of people turn to the internet and those online estimates, but I wanted to share with you a powerful tool that we use every day in our lending practice. We have a valuation tool that generates a robust 10 to 15 page detailed property valuation report. It's not quite an appraisal, but it's way more accurate and detailed than one of those online estimates. And I'd like to make that available to you, one of our valued listeners. Just visit the website freevaluereport.org. That's freevaluereport.org. There you'll be prompted to answer a few questions about your property. That's it. We'll do the rest. We're happy to send you the report. Just visit freevaluereport.org. And thank you for being a listener of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Are you a rock star real estate agent? I mean, truly one of the best? If you are, let's talk. This is Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show, and we are currently expanding our network of rock star referral partners. If you think you have what it takes, we'd love to connect. Just visit Mr.Mortgage. That's www.mr.mortgage. There's no .com. Just type in Mr.Mortgage, hit the contact us button, and let's talk. It's not every day that you need an appraisal, whether it's for a divorce settlement, estate planning, or maybe you're appealing a tax assessment, or you just want to make sure you have adequate coverage in your property insurance. When you need a certified appraisal, turn to my friends at soflappraisal.com. That's soflappraisal.com. Peter and his team have been appraising properties here in South Florida for decades. soflappraisal.com. And tell him you heard this on the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now, 561-291-8569.
All right, and we are back. I'm Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show, and as always, you can call the Anytime hotline, which is 561-291-8569. That's 291-8569, or visit the website www.mr.mortgage. No .com, just Mr.Mortgage. So, hey, to finish the thought up on that refinance, so if you're going to pay off some higher interest rate debt, it certainly still makes sense. And I wanted to share a very quick story. And I like to share stories because I think they're relatable. So I helped a young family, super, super nice people. They had purchased their home. I want to say, and I'm doing this from memory, so just bear with me, but this happened just in the last month or so. They owned their home for about 5 or 6 years. They were first-time buyers when they bought the home. They had a ton of equity. And during the pandemic, they were, like the rest of us, they were sequestered to their homes. And I think actually, if I remember correctly, the mom lost her job and lost the health insurance with that. But anyway, one of the children was injured, and they had some medical expenses that they paid with their credit cards. And they're super frugal and super smart, and they opened a Discover card with a 0% interest rate for whatever grace period that was given. And they spread the balances over the course of a few different credit cards that they could get that introductory rate on. And they managed to pay the medical bills for their child, and they were stuck with the payments when they started to adjust. Now, these people did what they had to do, which oftentimes we're all faced with that, and they pulled it off, right? So the COVID restrictions ease, and dad goes back to work full time, and everything is stabilized, and those credit card payments adjust and start coming due. So to make a very, very long story short, we did a debt consolidation loan. And it's a product that we have, and I'm sure other lenders have it, but it's called a REC, R-E-C, refinance. And it's reduce, eliminate, and consolidate is what REC stands for. And there's certain requirements that if we're able to meet them with this loan, we have there's some benefits associated with it. So in this instance, we use the REC refinance, and they paid off all the credit cards, which essentially were the medical expenses. But they paid off all the credit cards, and they took a little bit of cash out just to do some catch-up renovation around the home. I guess we probably all noticed a lot of things during the pandemic when we were stuck inside that we wanted to change about our homes. But in this instance, they had a little wish list, so they paid off all the credit cards and had some money left over to do the renovations around the house. But where I'm going with this story is the actual mortgage payment itself. They owning the home for 5 or 6 years, they did have a slightly higher interest rate than we were able to get them. We lowered the rate a little bit, not a lot. That savings wasn't that significant, mortgage to mortgage, if you will. But where they saw an amazing savings was all the credit cards that we paid off, and the slight reduction in the mortgage payment saved them about $800 a month. So for this family of 4, that made a significant impact on their lives, and having that home allowed them to do that. So yes, there are still instances where it makes sense to refinance, and we're still talking about amazing interest rates. I mean, granted, you don't get the cocktail party award for the lowest interest rate at the party. So there's always that guy at the barbecue or at your friend's dinner party who's standing in the corner letting everybody know that he got the 2% 30-year fixed rate with no points, and great, he wins the neighborhood award for the all-time lowest rate ever, or whatever those numbers work out to be. We all know that guy, and some of us are that guy, which is, hey, awesome if you got lucky and scored the bottom. But the reality is that there are always circumstances where cashing some of the equity out to offset other expenses makes sense. Granted, for the last couple of years, the majority of people capitalized on rate and term refis, which, you're lowering your payment or shortening your term, certainly reducing your interest rate. But the REC loan still makes sense for a lot of people. If you have questions about that particular loan product, just give me a shout, 561-291-8569. But I really loved how that played out. Super, super nice people, and it made sense for them in that instance to save $800 a month, and they utilized their house to do that. So, and that's another thing I want to encourage all of us to do. So, most of us own our homes. A lot of us may have capitalized on the rates of late and say, hey, Mark, hey, cool, you've got a mortgage show, but I don't need a mortgage. That may be true for you, but I encourage everybody to guide the younger generation, the people around us, to, if they're able to make a rent payment, they may be able to make a mortgage payment. And the best way to start generational wealth, or equity wealth rather, is by real estate ownership. And most of us